Hey everyone, so today we're talking about the Fujifilm X Pro 3, and I got this camera about a month ago and I've been using it, so I want to talk about it a little bit. I posted in the Fuji forums on Facebook that I've been really enjoying this camera, and there's a lot of great things about it. I'm very excited to share with it, but there's also some negatives that I want to talk about, and I'm also going to be comparing it to the Fuji X Pro 1 that I've been using for about 2 years, and the Sony a7 III, which is recording me right now. So the first thing I want to talk about is the price, and I actually I got the Dura Silver from Camera Canada, but I actually paid for the regular one and they were out of stock, so they sent me this one, which is like $500 more for the price of the regular one. So I kind of got a good deal there, but I would say that the price of this camera is not worth it if you look at it features wise. Like if you're a hybrid shooter, if you like to shoot video and photo, obviously this camera is not worth the price. You can get way better cameras like the X-T4 or even a Sony or whatever. So I'm strictly speaking about this from a photography side because my main camera is a Sony a7 III, which is recording me. That I use that for work and I use it for video as well, so I don't need a second camera with video capabilities. So I only got this for photography. So if you're looking for something which is like feature packed and it's going to get you jobs and everything, I wouldn't recommend this camera. So I got this camera only strictly for street photography, which is what I'm getting into again. Like after 2 years of not shooting street at all, I'm getting back into it. And that's the only reason why I got this camera. Now, I'm also, like I said, comparing to the X Pro 1 that I've owned for 2 years. This is a fantastic camera, and if you want to get into the Fujifilm system in 2021, I would still say get the X Pro 1 because it's so cheap, and you can get into the Fujifilm system with this for a very low price and get great image quality and get everything that Fuji has to offer. Now, I also want to talk about a little bit about some things that bothered me when I'm comparing the X Pro 1 to the X Pro 3. So there's two things that bother me with the X Pro 3. So number one, the color output. I believe the X Pro 1 still has better color output than the X Pro 3. I don't know what it is. First of all, the white balance, like the auto white balance of the X Pro 1 is way better than the X Pro 3. I feel like the X Pro 3 is closer to the Sony a7 III, which sometimes is a bit too magenta. I feel like the X Pro 1 really like nails the auto white balance incredibly. It's unbelievable how good it is. And the other thing is if you're shooting JPEGs, so if you only care about JPEGs, not RAW, the film simulations from the X Pro 1 look better than the X Pro 3. Not necessarily more color accurate, because I don't think the X Pro 1 is very color accurate. It's just, it looks better. So if you just shoot JPEG, the X Pro 1 gets you better files than the X Pro 3. That's in my opinion. That's from shooting with both cameras. And by the way, I'm putting a lot of photos that I took with the X Pro 3 throughout the video, so you can see what you can achieve with this. And the other thing is, so the X Pro 1 is what, like 9 years old now, I think? And it has a 12 megapixel sensor, and the X Pro 3 has a 26 megapixel sensor. And I still feel that the X Pro 1 gives you sharper images. Even though it's like more than double the resolution, the X Pro 3 is more than double the resolution of the X Pro 1. The X Pro 1 files look just a little bit sharper, especially in high contrast situations. Like, things look a bit sharper with this, which is funny because it's a lower megapixel camera, but it looks better somehow. And I also noticed this with the Sony a7 III. So I used to have the original Sony a7S, which was also 12 megapixel camera. And I remember when I moved to the Sony a7 III, the Sony a7S looked sharper, even though the Sony a7 III was double the megapixel count. So keep that in mind. I personally don't care about megapixels because I'm not printing anything. Everything is online for me, so I really don't care about megapixels. Which is why I also want to say that the X Pro 1 is still a really good value to get in 2021. Now, if you're shooting RAW, then the color from both cameras is almost identical. Like, you won't see a difference in the RAW files. just a slight white balance shift from this to that, but the color is almost the same. Now, why did I buy this camera? That's a good question. Do I need this camera? Absolutely not. I don't need this camera. I have a Sony a7 III and an X Pro 1. I don't need anything else. I only got the X Pro 1 because I wanted to get into Fujifilm and I wanted to shoot street. And what bothered me about the Sony a7 III was that the shutter was too loud and it was very distracting, and people would look at me really funny, and that kind of annoyed me about the Sony. So that's why I got the X Pro 1, which is much more silent, smaller, and people don't notice you as much. So the only reason I got the X Pro 3 was because I wanted an X Pro 1, but with better autofocus. So that's why I got the X Pro 3. I didn't need to get it, so let me get that out of the way, that I don't need this camera. But I had spare cash, and I sold some lenses from Sony that I didn't use anymore, and I just decided to get it. So, do I regret it? No. I love the camera. It's very fun to shoot, which is what I want to talk about. Like, it's so fun to shoot with this camera. Like, the Sony delivers amazing quality, but it's not that fun to shoot with. This is super fun to shoot with. It's small, it's fast. Like, turning the camera on and off, it's immediate. It's so fast. When you put your eye to the EVF, it immediately turns on. Like, you don't have that half second or 1 second delay like the Sony does. And also the screen, right? So everybody has been complaining about this screen, that you have to flip it down to see like what you're photographing. Otherwise you can't see anything. You have to use the EVF or the OVF. I personally don't care about it. Didn't make a difference for my photography. Sometimes it was weird because I was trying to shoot something, but the screen was flipped up, and I couldn't see anything, and I had to flip it down. So in that sense, it was a bit weird at first to get used to it, but I got used to it within a week, and actually I did start using the EVF more than the screen. Like on my Sony and the X Pro 1, I mostly use the screen. Now I'm mostly like using the EVF, or like sometimes one or sometimes the other. But it definitely helped me start to use the EVF. The OVF, by the way, unlike the X Pro 2, I know that the X Pro 2 has 2 magnifications. This one has 1. I don't know what it feels like to have 2 magnifications, so I can't comment on that. But for me, I just use the 35 f2, and the OVF is perfect. It's very bright. I love it. And build quality wise, guys, this is like, I feel like it's indestructible. It's so well made. I was reading a lot about X Pro 3 users like having problems with their X Pro 3, things like breaking or whatever. I haven't had any issues, though I've been only using it for just over a month. But I haven't had any issues, and it feels good in the hand, like it feels well made. So we'll see how that stands up to time. Next, I want to talk about the autofocus, because like I said, the only reason I got this was because I wanted an X Pro 1, but with faster autofocus. So the F system on this is a bit weird, I would say. It's like the AF is fast, it's very fast to acquire focus, but I don't think it's very accurate. So the X Pro 1 has very slow autofocus, but it's very accurate. Like every time it focused, it was always on point. The Sony a7 III is on another level. I'm not even going to compare it. The Sony is like 100 times better than this when it comes to autofocus. It always nails everything. Like I barely miss anything with the Sony a7 III. With this, even though like it tells me the acquired focus, and by the way, I shoot a lot of continuous, the focus still misses. Like maybe like out of all the photos I get, like 70% are in focus and 30% are not, or maybe even less, like maybe 65, 35. So, which is strange. Maybe like I'm not used to the autofocus system yet. I tried zone focusing on this, like the zone system, not the actual zone system as in manual, but like the zone focusing system. And I wouldn't use it. I don't think it's accurate at all. So I'm using the small square. And like I said, it's not very accurate. It's fast, but it's not very accurate. Even in low light, actually, it's really fast, but again, not very accurate. So I'm trying to like learn about that a little more and see how to work around it. Have I missed a lot of shots? Not really, but when I do miss a shot, I get upset about it. So it is what it is. But again, I come back to like how fun it is to shoot with this camera. Like that's the most important thing for me, is a camera has to be fun, because the Sony a7 III is a great camera, but it's too big, too heavy for everyday carrying around, and it's not fun to shoot with. So I use it for work. The X Pro 1 was super fun, but the AF was a bit slow and I just wanted something just a little bit faster. So I could have also gotten the X Pro 2 for much cheaper, but I just decided to get the latest for whatever reason. Anyway, either way, I'm super happy with this camera, even though it has some negatives. I love the camera, and also actually there's that one thing that I have to talk about, which is really cool, is being able to see the scene with film simulation applied, right? Because when you're looking through the EVF and you see the photo already like color graded kind of from the film simulation, it just makes it so much more fun to shoot, because you're actually seeing a good image straight from the camera before you shoot the scene. So that actually makes me want to shoot more. So like the Sony, it's, you know, you see what the camera sees, like it's not edited, it's not nothing, it's not bad, but it's just, it doesn't look as good as this. So this makes me want to shoot it even more. And the other thing is that it's small, so that's what also makes me want to shoot it more, because I can always have it around me. So anyway, that's all I have to say. I definitely don't regret buying the camera. It's a great camera, and I love shooting with it, and I hope you also enjoyed the images that I put up. The thing is, I don't know if I could recommend this to anyone. Like if you're gonna buy this camera, it has to be for a very specific purpose. Either you like really enjoy the rangefinder style camera, like look wise, or you really want an OVF and EVF, or you really don't want a screen in the back. Like other than that, I can't see why anybody would buy this camera. You could get an X-T4, an X-E4, an X100V, all for cheaper than this camera. And like the X-T4 especially delivers so many more things than this. So I would say that those cameras are like better investments than this. But like I said, this is super fun, and the only reason I bought it is because for me, I care about fun. Anyway, that's all I have to share for this. I might make another video later comparing the X Pro 1 to the X Pro 3 a little bit more in depth. But that's all for now. Hope you enjoyed the video, and keep shooting.